There's a lovely story, it's a couple of 1,000 years old story, of a princess who walks out into the fields barefoot. And she's never walked out into the fields barefoot, and she stands on a thorn. It's very painful. She manages to get the thorn out and hobbles back to her father, the king, and she says to him, "I demand that you carpet the entire kingdom." She's very spoiled. The king's freaking out because how am I going to afford all this carpet? I can't do it. And just then a wise advisor humbly suggests she wear a pair of sandals. Now this story is very significant because as long as you believe stress is caused outside of yourself, you're a carpet seeker, aren't you? And when the world is just perfect, which it never really is, but when the world's all nicely carpeted, then you will be stress-free and happy and well. Does that make sense? And how are you going with that? Probably not that great. With the exception of genuinely life-threatening circumstances, your ongoing stress is 100% in you. Unfortunately, a lot of us spend a lot of time in this state in our normal lives when there are no life-threatening circumstances. You know, has anyone faced any life-threatening circumstances the last week? Anybody? Have you experienced stress in the last week? If that's so, all that stress has been caused by you. When's the last time you got in an argument with a loved one and you said, the problem around here is me? Isn't it always them that needs to change? And at the worst case scenario, what tends to happen is you get into an argument, you both decide this is all too hard, so you go numb. So there's many ways to describe the subject, but there's three broad categories. There's multitasking. Does anyone multitask? Yes. Okay. And how about technology and distraction? Who of us are addicted to their phones? Anyone addicted to their phones? Like we're helplessly addicted to our phones, are we not? Yeah, I mean, every time I catch the bus or the train, it's like a horror show. Or you go out to dinner. I've just come back from a couple of weeks working with a hotel group. And it's just amazing to watch the average family now at dinner. Have you noticed this? It's like everybody's on their phones, like nobody's connecting anymore. It's quite wild. Do you ever feel like you're working 8 days a week? Yeah. Well, one of the primary reasons why you feel that is because it takes 64 seconds to switch your attention from one task back to another task, especially when it involves thinking, complexity. Meaning if you check your email every 5 minutes, you're wasting 8.5 hours a week. And multitasking is an illusion. What actually happens is your attention's dancing, it's switching. It's going this, dum, dum, dum. Now, what do you think, how do you feel when your attention's doing this all the time? A lot of my clients, especially leaders, they say, I try and look important because I'm insecure. And I keep busy, and when I keep coming to late meetings and I'm busy, it makes me look like important. And it's all just a cover-up for my deep insecurity and imposter syndrome. I think before the advent of all this technology, the average Australian watched 3.5 hours of TV a day. Ironically, those same people tell me they don't have time to meditate 10 minutes a day, which is kind of hilarious. The default brain network is basically associated with absent-mindedness, meaning you're not quite here now. Do you know how you can drive your car, get to the destination, and not quite remember the journey? That's called the default brain network. So when we're active, we're connected, present. When the default brain network, it's like this idling, inattentive state, often referred to as absent-mindedness. Having worked in this area for a long time, I would say the average person reports that about 98% of their lives are one long stream of absent-mindedness. Results obsession. Do you play the when-then game or the if-only game? Do you play that, when it's the end of the year, then I'll be happy? When I go on holiday? When my boss just starts behaving well? When the students just start behaving well? When I retire? When I get my health back? When I get married? When I get divorced? When I have children? When my children grow up? When I have more money? When my mortgage is paid? Do you play this game? It's like you're kind of delaying life in your own mind, right? You're not quite showing up. You're waiting to show up one day. And it's the equivalent of eating chocolate cake all day, hoping one day you'll get fit. But by the time you get, it's too late. So our ancestors were pretty freaked out, right? The guys who were running around the Serengeti plains saying, let's be present in Kumbaya, they didn't make it and they didn't procreate. So we come from a long line of paranoid, worried, freaked out people. And the best analogy is if you've ever done a Leadership 360 assessment and you get 20 pieces of good feedback and 1 piece of negative feedback, what do you think you go home and think about that night? We're negatively framed. And that is extremely bad for us. So mindfulness is about maintaining an open heart awareness. So basically, to cover all the jargon, mindfulness is being present. But it's not just being present for brief seconds. It's being present for extended periods of time. That's why it's hard work and it's a training. But when you're in the present, it's super easy. Have you noticed that? Do you think the happiest moments of your life, the most meaningful moments of your life, they will always be moments that you were present. They will never be moments that you were absent. There is no much meaning in that absent-minded state.